TESOL presents Free Friday webinars. I'm your hostess, Shelly Sanchez-Terrell, and today we're talking about some great activities, spooky, frightful activities that are good for this season. In October, we know at the end in America, we celebrate, and in other places, Halloween. But not only Halloween, in other countries, they celebrate Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, and there's also All Saints Day. So all of these wonderful holidays and traditions lead to some very spooky themes, especially about monsters, the dead, and other traditions as well. So we are here thanks to AmericanTESOL.com, and American TESOL has plenty of certifications for teaching English. We have an advanced TESOL course, teaching young learners, and also teaching with technology. You can get a certification, and you can do this online from the comfort of your home, or you can look for a face-to-face class as well. You can find all the resources on the AmericanTESOL.com a blog. We do have a blog there, so you can check that out, /blogger, or shellyterrell.com/Halloween. One of the great reasons why we celebrate this holiday, and why it brings up some of these great lesson plans that we might normally not use in the classroom, is because our students love horror films, they love zombies, they love vampires, all of these themes of the supernatural, and also wolves, and they're very popular topics for novels, for books that children read, for our teenagers. So if you are working with teenagers, that's one way to engage them. Even adults really are fascinated with this. Some of the shows on television, The Walking Dead, some of the movies out there that are the top box movies, Twilight, a lot of these different comic books, video games are all related to these themes. So these are definitely themes that we can bring into the classroom and ensure that students are learning as well. So what kind of themes can we talk about during this holiday season? Well, there's plenty of them. We have zombies, we have magic, we have hauntings, vampires, fantasy, monsters, legends, and even science fiction. You can bring up ideas about aliens, and also you can teach a lot of other subjects as well. You can teach CLIL, content language integrated learning. There's a lot of these topics that go hand in hand with teaching geography, teaching history, teaching about forensic science, different science subjects, teaching math. So if you are a language teacher and these are some of the things you teach, then it's really, really great, because you can integrate these themes and you can also teach those other subjects. A lot of these are really, really great ideas for teaching reading and writing as well. Plus, your students love to talk about them. And some great listening activities, things that they will want to listen to. So we see a lot of this culture, as I was talking about these themes, in some of the most popular movies, TV shows, music, comics, books, and video games. So how can we integrate them into the classroom? Well, one way is to choose material with these themes. And there's some really great resources out there. You can have some resources about zombies. And recently, I actually found this incredible free graphic novel of zombies with the CDC. So I'm going to go ahead and share that inside the chat box. This is free for your learners to be able to see online. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share with you that particular theme. They call it a novella, but basically what it is it looks a lot like a comic, and comics are really great for learners, because when you have comics, then you're able to do things where you're able to have a visual to go with the vocabulary. So this is a free online book. You can even print it out. I don't think you would want to print it out because it's probably quite difficult to, I mean, it'd probably be very expensive, but you can have all your students look at it online and share it online as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take off my video since some of you are having some problems with the sound. Hopefully that makes it a lot better there. So that one is a really, really good resource. I personally think that this is the zombie comic or zombie novella, and this is with the Center for Disease Control, so it is an educational resource. And I think it's such a great resource for teenagers and adults to learn with, and even college students if you teach any of those levels, and even adolescents if they have a higher level of English. If you're looking for some for young learners, well, there's plenty of great, safe ways to look at it, to read different Halloween-themed books. Some of my students' favorites that they really enjoyed, adolescents, 4th grade, anywhere from like 9 years old all the way out, is really the Goosebumps series. Students really love Goosebumps. They really get into Goosebumps. And so these are some great reading materials. The boys, whenever I had a struggle with boys and getting them to read at higher levels, I would use the Goosebumps series, and the boys really, really enjoyed that a lot. So if you have trouble getting your boys, your English language learners to read that are boys, then that one would be good. For really, really young learners, I really love Room on the Broom, The Gruffalo. There's a lot of these books. I used to read these with students from 6 to 10 years old. This is Julia Donaldson. Julia Donaldson is a really incredible author. So you can find, she's really great because she has some really great music tracks that go with it. She has some online videos that go with her books. A lot of different things. You can probably hear it in the background. She has different activities as well. So she has other. She's also the author of the Gruffalo, which has an amazing song for very young learners. The other one is Halloweener, another favorite children's author of mine as well, who has tons of different books out there as well. So I really, really like that too. There's even an animation, and Dave Pickey is the author. Dave Pickey is another one of my favorite writers for young learners. He just has so many animated, fun children's books your students will really love. John Spencer has a book. This is more for adult, for 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds will really enjoy this. Because it's a longer book, but it almost like a Harry Potter type of book, which is Wendell, who's a wizard. Okay, so wizards are definitely something you can teach about that students really enjoy. Jerry Seinfeld, the famous comedian, has a Halloween book for kids. And of course, one of my favorite growing up myself that I've read to my students, and students of all ages really like this as well. I mean, younger ones, of course. But the whole Miss Nelson is Missing is a really good series. It's a really good book as well. So definitely this is something that it's basically where it's about a teacher, and the teacher who has she can't come in. She's substituting, and it's a very mean teacher. And in the end, it sort of seems like maybe it wasn't a mean teacher. It has a little surprise twist. So these are just a few ideas of the many Peggy George shared in the chat box. Some of the books that she loves to read during this. The Pearl Trees that has so many more. Now, some of the books that you like to read to your students, if you want to share what kind of maybe a themed, monster themed, or zombie themed, or witch themed, or wizard themed, or any of those Halloween themed type of books that you use with your learners, You're more than okay. Yeah, J.K. Rowling. That's a good one, Nishad. Um, that you share with your students. You're more than welcome to put inside the chat box so we can look them up and add to our resource. But also, so we can, if you put the age group, that can help all of us as well. So one of the things we can do is also teach about culture, and that's one of the big parts of the European framework, that they want you to integrate culture into the curriculum. And if you teach a culturally responsive curriculum, and even across, if you have any type of language learners, it's always important to bring culture in the curriculum. So one way of doing this is by teaching the history of Halloween, because Halloween is cultural. Some countries do not celebrate it. Other countries do. And they have different ways of celebrating. And then there are other countries around the world who have different traditions and holidays that they actually get dressed up for and wear costumes. When I lived in Germany, we had Fasching, and that's when we get dressed up. I believe that was in February. It's been a while since I lived there. But that's when all the kids would really dress up as witches. And that was very popular costume back then with Fasching, which was the festival. So you can find this particular one. Here it's bit.ly Halloween Hist Comic, and that's the short URL to learn about the history of Halloween. Now, actually, one of my students actually created this. She did this as part of one of her assignments, and this was the way she was using it and presenting it to her language learners. So that's why I have a snapshot of this incredible thing that I really enjoyed that she did in my class a couple of years ago. So that's, let's see if I can put that in the chat box, but bit.ly, and it's Halloween history, well, hist comic. And then that shows you the history of Halloween. So it's good during this time. I was mentioning different celebrations and holidays where you dress up and do things. November the 2nd is Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. You also have I think it's a Catholic holiday, All Saints Day. For Dia de los Muertos, you have different altars. It's a way of honoring those who have died. You have altars that are made with some favorite dishes. You usually have candy skulls. You have people that dress, they paint their faces with these beautiful skulls. They make beautiful ceramic skulls and stuff that are just beautifully ordained. Very, very beautiful. And it's a big celebration, dancing, and you put gifts on the graves. And so you can learn about different traditions during this time as well, how different people, and that's a good lesson for adult learners as well, is talking about how they celebrate the dead, the loved ones, and honor them. And you can talk about different cultures and how different even religions celebrate life, and also when life is gone, what the funeral process is, what and so you'll learn that a lot of your students, if they do a presentation about that, they'll be able to enlighten each other and teach each other about their traditions, and it's a way to bring them in the classroom. Your students can make a scary movie, okay? So that can be something that they enjoy doing. If you go to shellytarot.com/video, you're going to see tons and tons of videos. iMovie, I think, is really good. Camtasia gives you free 30 days. And Camtasia is really good. I use Camtasia a lot to piece together big productions and things like that. Camtasia has always worked really well for me. And you can use it. It's the first in Windows Movie Maker, works really well as well, because you need to edit these films. That's why. You can make a really short one. That's not a problem either. You can show them examples of great horror films that don't show a lot of horror, that show more suspense, from, of course, here, the famous, one of the most famous suspense and famous writers and directors, which is Alfred Hitchcock. So, oh, thank you, Peggy. I didn't realize Bit Strips for School closed down. Unfortunately, that's, well, good thing that I saved that that strip, because that's where she made it from, was bit strips, so that's why I put it on there. But good thing I saved my own copy. But I know bit strips, the regular one is still open, just the general public one. But you can show them examples of Alfred Hitchcock. These are actually kind of really good because they're very visual and they have tense scenes, and then the students can try and guess what is happening next. You can pause it and then say, what do you think is going to happen next? So Alfred Hitchcock has a way of having horror without horror. It's something that you can show students a lot of the clips, and it's not inappropriate. And we do have to pay attention to that. We have to make sure that whatever our students see in all of this, especially around these themes, that they are presentable. We also have where the students can design and make their own costumes. They learn math that way. They learn about measurements, and they also get to be very creative. Students, you can do very simple designs. You don't even have to sew for a lot of Halloween costumes, or even for a lot of costumes that they're making for their movie. So if they're making a horror movie and they're designing the costumes, they're learning math with that. They have to learn measurements. They have to follow a blueprint or a pattern a lot of times, and cut. And so it can be a great way for your students to be able to learn about that materials. A lot of times, even with young learners, you teach materials. You teach about like felt and stripes and patterns, and that's one of the vocabulary that you do learn. So this, if they're making their own costumes, then they're able to learn that, but they're also able to learn math, and they're also able to learn to be creative and do it for a purpose, for their commercial, their spooky commercial, or their spooky movie. So there's lots of video tools if you go to shellytarot.com video. I mentioned a few. iMovie. There's also Powtoon. There's Director. There's Camtasia, WeVideo. So there's quite a bit of them. Plotagon, YouTube Capture. You can add special effects by Quo Movie Effects, Creature Effects, and Action Movie Effects. These are 3 apps. They're on iOS and they're on Android devices, and your students for 5 seconds can add monsters in their movies and things like that, and then you can piece them together with iMovie, Windows Movie Maker, or Camtasia, whichever you have access to. Your students can even create in their movie scenes. They can make them more real by creating things like slime, fake blood. That teaches them math and science as well. It teaches them how to mix, because these are recipes. And then it also teaches them the grammar of following instructions and directions. The great thing is, if they don't follow these instructions well, if they don't understand, then they see it immediately, the effect. Something doesn't come out right, and then they have to retry the recipe again until they get it right. So these are some fun ways. The other great thing is, if they do this for their movie, they'll also be able to do this for some very inventive and creative costumes. So if they're learning to do this and they're following instructions, and you do this as a class together, and a lot of times these don't require any kind of cooking. Oh, well, that's good to know. So Christina put in the chat box that November 2nd is All Souls Day, national holiday in Brazil. So yes, definitely there's a lot of these holidays that come into play during this time. So if they are making their slime and their fake blood and all of this, these are more, it's science. It's chemical reactions that come out that make it turn into this gooey substance, or the blood, the red, and things like that. So it's good because you can teach a lot of CLIL this way, the content language integrated learning as well, and following instructions. It's a fun way to get students to follow instructions and learn how to give instructions as well. They can create a book or video of trick-or-treating safety tips. So what we used to do in Germany, because we don't celebrate in Germany Halloween either, but the students will take during the time, so they learned about Halloween, they would dress up the little children, and we would go class to class and trick or treat. And so that was something that they were able to do. Now this year with my students, yes, it isn't movie, sorry, it's video, but the thing that you can do with students is, this year my students, they're many of them are, they're from other countries and they're in America, so now I get to help them with their real trick-or-treating in case they go anywhere and trick-or-treat as well, although they're college students. But here even college students sometimes trick-or-treat in America here because they want free candy. So it's always good to do some safety, and because what happens is that some of the students, they don't yeah, exactly. You can have fall festivals as well, where students still go and trick or treat and gather candy. But some of they do have to be careful. So if you do happen to have that kind of a situation, you can have safety trips, like carry a flashlight at night. Those are some of the tips. Check your candy because they're still getting candy from strangers. Things like that are some safety trips. Or they can make safety posters. S'more.com is a great way to make those safety posters for other children as well. They can play and create spooky games. Learn English Kids has some great monster games that my students really love. One of the ones my students loves is the monster, make a monster on Learn English Kids, because after you learn about the parts of the body and you're able to make this monster, you're also able to, with your monster, see your monster sneeze, see your monster sing, see your monster dance. And the monster actually is very funny. The monster, he sings, "I'm a monster, holla." And all my students end up singing that song. Even the students that are like 11, 12, and 13, they just sing that song all day. So they really do learn. And they like the stories. There's different types of stories. There's games, printables, all kinds of things on Learn English Kids. Your students can prepare for a zombie apocalypse. There's a lot of really great games that are out there for young learners all the way to teenagers. And what they do is they break into small teams or groups, and usually about 3 or 4. They're given a story that there's a zombie apocalypse, and then they have to work together and decide, a plan of, what are they going to need when everyone's turning into a zombie? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to travel? What kind of weapons they're going to need, which they always have fun with. A lot of the teachers have come up with PowerPoints to introduce this idea. Where, if they're going around the world and they're if they're running around, what do you need when you're running around in the woods? Or some things like maybe water, some survival tips, maybe canned goods that aren't going to go bad. How are you going to feed yourself? These are some of the things that your students have to worry about and they plan for. They have a lot of resources on teaching with zombies for teenagers. If you go to STEM Hollywood, STEM Hollywood is actually from the creator, from one of the people who's helped that is, if you've seen the A Big Bang Theory, then you may have seen one of the famous actresses, Malik, who I believe her name is actually Shelley on the show. I haven't watched it for a little while, but she's part of this. She's actually very smart, a scientist, and she is the one who has helped with this. So I think this is really, really good as well. So some of the things you can do to integrate listening as well, and then also writing with your teenagers and even college students or adult language learners is haunted places. So there's actually a lot of podcasts and online stories that have to do with local haunted places. In your area, I bet you will find a field trip or grouping where they go and explore haunted places. So that can definitely be something that you even do as a class. You can go on one of these trips where you It's with a guide. It's not scary or spooky. Usually they just tell you the history behind a haunted place. So yeah, I believe in a lot of places they have these haunted tours around the world, and they will do an English version. So even if you're, for example, I've done these in Paris, I've done these in the Czech Republic, Prague. I've done these in a lot of big cities where they have the English tour of these. So this is something you can do with your students as well. Or your students can just look for local haunted places, and then they can write a new story about them. They can research the history and why it's considered haunted, and interview people about it as well. So one of these resources is the Moonlit Road, and Moonlit Road is actually full of different ghost stories, but these stories are audio stories and they're short ones, so they make some really good listening exercises and practices for your students. Your students will be interested. It's a different way, and when they listen, you can have them, answer questions, reflect, figure out what's going to happen. You can always, pause it and say, okay, what do you think is going to happen next? Why do you think? You can have a discussion afterwards where your students talk about, if they've seen ghosts, if they believe in hauntings, if they don't believe in hauntings. They also have pictures to go with these places. So these are things that your students can talk about, whether they believe in this or not. Your students can animate spooky characters. They can create their own monsters. Really young learners can create their own aliens. You can talk about, okay, we're preparing to go to Mars, or we're preparing to go to another planet or the moon. What kind of creatures do you think we might find up there? Or if an alien comes, what would the alien look like? Some of us can just create a monster. Little kids love coming up with monsters. They really do love monsters. And then once they draw them, even older students like monsters. Once they draw them, then they can use a web tool like Blabberize or Yakit for Kids. And Yakit for Kids and Blabberize allow you to put a mouth on your drawing. Yakit for Kids is an actual app. It is an iOS app, but Blabberize is a free web tool, so that way they can do that. So they get their drawing and they draw a little mouth, and then it opens the mouth and they make it talk. So that's a good speaking activity to get kids to really love, to bring their drawings to life. Another idea is that they can also be able to do this with spells and potions. They can definitely, with spells and potions, they're able to learn things like chanting, and we talked about how chanting is really good for students, how it teaches them grammatical structures, it teaches them vocabulary, and they're really, really easy to be able to learn. So one activity I have designed for students, and you'll find this on, if you go to shellytarot.com, Halloween, but I have here a script or lesson plan that I came up with. And students work. One is a person who specializes in, they do a role play. Student A is someone who makes magic potions, and student B is a person who wants a magic potion. So B is coming into A's store and asking for a magic potion, and student A is asking, okay, what kind of potion would you like? Do you want a love potion? Do you want a potion to do better in your schoolwork? Do you want a potion so you have long hair? I mean, whatever it is that B wants, a magic potion. So then what student A does and student B is they come up with what to put in this. Of course, this is imagination. A potion are they going to put? And then you can give them a bunch of different things they can put. For example, you can give them that they can put in. You can have something where they put in gummy worms instead of real worms. They can put in, there's a lot of different candies that they can put in that are bug looking and things like that, because with magic potions, that's what you usually do, is you usually have like a hair of this, or you have a you have spider or something like that. So you can get very creative, but they're asking each other these questions in the interviews. And then they have to come up with a chant for their magic potion. And so they are pretending what kind of chant, and they have to pick words that kind of are related to the ingredients, because the chants are usually related to the ingredients and also related to actions they do, like you have to spin around 2 times or 3 times, or you have to touch your nose 3 times or something like that, so they can come up with creative actions for this magic spell. And then they also can say abracadabra or come up with some different words for their chant. So they're making this chant. And then afterwards, they have to make a potion story. So they're not really making this magic potion or anything, but you can do it as a class and pretend yourself as well. But what they're doing is they're coming up with a story and what happened when they used this. Exactly, hocus pocus. When they did this. Boggle's World actually has some great spell and chant activities. Boggle's World, ESL.com, has plenty of flashcards and these kinds of things for your young learners and stuff like that. They have books, and it's really nice. They can color and they can learn vocabulary, and they can learn little chants as well with Boggle's World. We can do a class spell, and as a class spell, we can say, okay, this is a good fun one for a test. If you have a test coming up, you can say, okay, we're going to try and make a spell so everybody can do very well on their test. And then you can get a big pot, like a cauldron looking pot, like for spells. And then you can give your students fun things to put in the pot, like gummy worms and noodles, like spaghetti noodles, just different things. Each adds an instruction and an ingredient. So you give your student the ingredient and they come up with an instruction. They have to add a pinch of this. They have to add a splash of that. They have to add a tablespoon of this. So they're learning about measurements as well and how to put that. They have to stir it 3 times with this stick. And then afterwards, you can give them a fun drink instead of the mess that you make, because of course you don't want to eat what you've just put inside the pot. Instead, you can give them fruit punch with dried ice, or that bubbles, or a fizzy fun drink instead to drink instead of the real one. Okay. And then here they can have, once again, the chants. This is one of the chants. They have a bunch of them on kidsonthenet.org.uk spells 98. But they have different types of chants for kids to say, which are all part of learning. Eye of the toad, ear of a bat, leg of a frog, tail of a cat, drop them in, stir it up, pour it up in a silver cup. So these are just kind of rhymes and stuff that they can use to kind of inspire them for their own chants. I teach children ESL. There's a trick-or-treat game, so that's a fun one for young learners. They just learn vocabulary. It has visuals. It's good for lower levels of English as well. And then, of course, there are some great spooky apps out there you can use. Horror Fingers is one of my favorite ones. It's an iOS app, and it's great for young learners too, and teenagers. They love it, but basically you make your fingers spooky, and then you can have your fingers, you can use something like Blabberize or Yak It once you make this funny picture. Then have your students put it, and then they can do a finger chant. Monster finger chant. They're able to do, or songs, a monster finger chant, or song as well, or nursery rhymes. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a link to one of those nursery rhymes, but definitely can do different songs that you animate and that they sing. And let me go ahead and get you the right URL.
Ray has a big imagine.
Let's see here. Another thing that you can do is learn. There's an app called Zombie Physics. That's a good one. There's Mash. Mash is a great one for language learners. They fill in different, and you can find these online. If you just put Mash Halloween, you can even find websites where they put in a verb, they put in an adjective, they put in a noun, and they come up, and it comes up with this very funny Halloween story. Or Mad Libs, if you put Halloween Mad Libs, you can find some of those as well. In fact, I will try to find some for you as well. But these are always very fun activities, and they're a great way to learn grammar and parts of grammar as well. So there's some Halloween Mad Libs for you as well. So you can find a lot of these resources. There's plenty more activities and stuff. I know Tiziana came the other day to my webinar that just talked about the zombie ones, but there are definitely monster ones. On Sprout English, I have some ones about monsters. So, and I also have one in ESL Library that talks about different types of activities to do with Halloween as well. So I'll go ahead and share those in the chat box. And Roscoe and I hope that you have a great whether you're celebrating All Souls Day, All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, or whether you are celebrating Halloween or a fall festival, the pumpkins and stuff, that you're able to have some fun doing this. Every year, Roscoe and I usually dress up. I'm not sure if we're dressing up this year with the baby coming along, but we'll say a happy Halloween, right, buddy? Right, buddy? I didn't put him in his costume, but we'll see you next week for sure. And when we'll learn more about more ideas.